This is the Dvar Malchut, a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1991. And the Rebbe is explaining to us what it means that to us, and what does it imply? What are we supposed to do? The fact that Aaron lit the flames on the menorah, right? The seven-branched candelabra in the temple. He did it, of course, in the tabernacle, but the tabernacle was also called the temple. That he lit these flames, and it says that the flames had to go up on their own. Shelahevet, a flame, ola, that goes up on its own. So the Rebbe said every Jew has to be a flame. They have to shine up the world. They have to be warm. They have to go up. They have to elevate. And it has to be me'aleh, it has to be from themselves. In other words, how do they call it? Independent, autonomous. Autonomous, independent means that you're connected to the truth no matter where you are. I guess they call it loyalty, but this is even a little bit more. The total connection with this. Sometimes you can get a person who's loyal, like to his country or something, loyal to his country, and then they brainwash him. They take him like the Chinese get these Americans, whatever, CIA guys, and then the Chinese start, or whoever, anyway, our enemy, and they start to explain that, listen, the fact of the matter is that you're loyal to America, right? So we should know that America is selling you out, and they sold all these other people out, and that they're tricky, and that they're dishonest, and they're throwing you under the bus. And here we have papers to show it that they're just. And the person starts to wonder, well, maybe it's none of that. The Americans, they really hate you're from Irish descent. The Americans hate Irish. They have a plan to kill all the Irish people. They have this. They show them all these, documents and proofs, and they let them hear these, the recordings, and the people that he thought, you thought your wife is loyal to you, she's not. Look at this here. Like, all of a sudden he thinks, wow, I've been fooled. Here I am. And on the other hand, they've been telling you all these bad things about, China, about us. Well, they're not true. Here, look and see. And they take him around, they show him. And suddenly he says, wow, I've really been fooled. I'm not loyal anymore. I'm not loyal anymore. Okay, this can be relevant to everything, except for Judaism. Except for Judaism. A person that is genuinely attached to God, genuinely, nothing in the world can shake him. And that's what Judaism is based on. There was a man called Abraham, and God made him all sorts of promises and did not come through with the promises. He promised him he would children like the stars of heaven, and that he was going to get the land of Canaan. And he didn't. He only had one son, and God said to take him, kill him. And he did it with great joy. What about God's promise? Right? God was telling him with that he, with his own hands, should destroy this promise. Not only that, I thought God was good. Here, God is telling me to kill my son. That's not good. Everything that he thought was true about God, all of a sudden, God proved it to him that it's not true. That God doesn't keep his promises, that God doesn't rule over the world. God says, leave here, go to the land of Israel, went to the Holy Land, you're going to be a great nation. He went there, there wasn't even anything to eat. It says Abraham had to leave, he had to go down to Egypt. But God put him through 10 tests. Each test was another proof that God is not good, God is not powerful, God is not omniscient, God proved to him, according to all empirical proofs, that everything you could possibly think about God was not necessarily true. And nevertheless, Abraham believed in God. Why did he believe in God? Why? What? For what reason? That's exactly the point. There was no reason. There was no reason. He realized that there is a truth, that God is creation, God is the creator, and that God is always good. And what God does is always good. Even if these bizarre, crazy tests that God put him through, everything is for good, somehow or other. Here, where this is already about 4,000 years after, God has still not fulfilled his promises to Abraham. Still, despite what the Zionists say, it's not so. He has not fulfilled his promise to them. And even if you want to say that what these, right, the Zionists say it's true that we come back to the land, the whole land, what God promised Abraham, the 10 nations, and we've only got 7. We've only got 7. So according to all opinions, even the most, lenient, whatever you want to call it, opinion, that God has fulfilled his promise to the Jewish people and we have returned to our homeland, we're still lacking. God promised them 10 nations. It says clearly the Canaan and the Kenizzi and the Kadmoni and the Amorian, he promised all of them, and we only got 7. So the whole idea of Judaism is loyalty to the truth. You feel that there is something that's called the truth, and that's why Jews throughout the generations have given their lives not to leave Judaism. Not to leave Judaism. We're talking about people who didn't care. They didn't even believe in the world to come and heaven and hell. They weren't thinking about it at all. They weren't priests or whatever is going with a flag and crusaders. That's what it means, me'aleh, that the flame has to come up on its own. You have to look into yourself and you have to think and understand, one second, these things that the Rebbe is saying, these things that the Torah is saying, that God is creating me, is that really true? And that God is really good, is that really true? I mean, look around the world. I don't feel God is creating me. I don't see God as good. But you start to think about it, and all of a sudden you realize, wow, you know what? This is something pretty amazing. Somebody asked me the other day, have you got any proof for what you're saying? There's a proof. It says in the Gemara, in the Talmud, the proof is that Jewish people are still here. Makes absolutely no sense. Everybody's been trying to destroy us, right? That was a bunch of where I put the fill on it. A bunch of missionaries came. They don't come around anymore. You have any proof that the Judaism? I said, listen, you guys are totally wrong. There's only one God, and He's creating us, and He's the Creator, and He took the Jews out of Egypt. And it's the first 10 commandments. And you can't. And God loves the Jews. They say, have you got any proof? What you're saying, that God's existence? You have any proof? So I said, yeah, we're still existing, despite the fact that you people have been trying to destroy us for 2,000 years, and we're outnumbered 1,000 to 1, and nevertheless, here we still are. And he just turned and left away. They walked away. That's what it means, that somehow or other, deep down, right? Everyone in the world knows and feels that there's a God, and that there's right and wrong, and that the right and wrong comes according to this God who gave the Torah at Mount Sinai. Everyone in the world feels it. Everyone in the world, whether they know it or not, even if they never heard about Judaism. Even though then on its own, gufa. Okay, another thing, what it means, the flame goes up on its own. This can be in 2 ways. This can be in 2 ways. That was recorded. Okay. This can be in 2 ways. Number one, even though that on its own, your physical, but 2 ways that you're convinced 100% that the flame goes up on its own. This can be in 2 ways. Even though that your physical body of a Jew does not shine with the lamp of the commandments and the light of the Torah, and all of your deeds are done for the sake of heaven. Nevertheless, ma'avdim et guf, we work with the body and we accustom it, we train it, but often in a way, hergil nasateva, that by accustoming ourselves, this becomes second nature. Second nature. Va'ad teva rishon, and finally becomes even first nature. Sheyakayim Torah v'mitzvot me'aleh, that you do Torah and commandments automatically. But is that a good thing to do Torah and commandments automatically? Have you ever seen? I mean, have you ever seen like a really good piano player? Have you ever seen a good pianist? I mean, I'll tell you, I don't really like a lot of the pianists. I mean, it's pretty interesting. But there's one pianist, the guy called Vladimir Horowitz. He passed away, I think, 50 years ago, something like that. 30 years, I don't know. Anyway, I've watched a lot of people play piano, but there's something really special about him. But all these others also, a really good pianist, is when they play, it's like automatic, right? They see the music and it just flows through them. It's something quite amazing. I'm not advising everybody to listen to music, but I'm just saying, It's the same thing with the certain violinists also. You just see, what's this guy's name? I can't remember. Anyway, just music just flows. It's just like automatic. A normal person thinking could never move their fingers in such a quick, organized, and expressive way. It just he trains himself until it becomes second nature, and then it becomes first nature. And we see this also by other things, in sports and in almost in so many things. That it just becomes natural, just sort of flows through the person. It's like automatic, doesn't have to think about it. It says that's the way Judaism should be. Why? Because these people are playing music. The music is truly harmonious. It truly is beautiful. Right? It truly is beautiful. And the beauty comes automatically through them. The same thing, Torah is the source of beauty. It will come through us. So that's what it means. The flame goes up on its own. But it's a way that we have to force and train ourselves. It's like an extra thing on our existence. Because on himself, he's not really relevant to this, right? These people that were born, they weren't born pianists. Somebody had to teach them about the piano and show them a piano. And the proof is that they have to accustom themselves, right? They have to practice. Could be that they're really good, that they catch on quickly, but they have to practice, right? There's no child in the world that was born and all of a sudden he can just play Rachmaninoff. He has to practice. But by means of how do you say, accustoming yourself, nasa teva becomes natural. The same thing with Judaism, right? You have the Torah, you have the commandments, and it just becomes, how do you say, you get accustomed to it more and more until you start to realize the truth and the beauty in it, and it becomes part of you. No, so, but it really is not part of you. It's really not you. But the fact of the matter is your nature is, the whole thing is limited. And that you adapt, you do Torah and the commandments, and you love God and you fear God, this is a thing that you have to sort of work on yourself and accustom yourself to do. Then there's another way, is by means of this shemagalim, that you reveal that the real existence of a Jew, also your physical body, is attached to God. Like it's known, what does it mean? It's one with God. Like it's known, hamatzius emitit, the true existence of this physical world, the created world, is really the existence of the Creator. Right? The existence of the created world is really part of the true existence of the Creator. As soon as you realize that, then the service of a Jew in Torah and the doing the commandments is not like an extra thing. Then our whole analogy breaks down. With the piano player, there's a piano, and there's music, and there's the person, right? There's the person, and the person, he is inspired by the beautiful music, and he knows how to play the piano, but it's still, no matter how integrated they all become, they still are separate things, and that's always going to be that way, which is not the case with Judaism, because Judaism, we're talking about God, and God is not something separate from us, and we're not something separate from him. As soon as we reveal that all of our existence is only coming from the existence of God, then immediately, even the first time, without any service whatsoever, since that your real existence depends on God, by God, there's no difference between the first time and the second time and the third time. So therefore, you can say that this type of, therefore, automatically, in other words, every second is now. Every second is now. That's the whole order. The beginning of service, when your body hides over your Torah mitzvahs, so you have to have work, and you have to accustom yourself, and you have to refine your body, like we just finished learning. Make yourself into gold, remove the sediments and the impurities. By means of this, suddenly reveal the truth. At koach ha'atzmos b'guv, the power of the essence of a body of a Jew. Music is a thing that's very beautiful, but it's not essential to your existence. Not essential to your existence. Some people say, that without music I would be dead. Okay, but the fact of the matter is you wouldn't be dead. Music is right? You can get along with it, but you can't get along without God. God is creating you. And here we're saying something even more, that God cannot get along without you. Somehow or other, you are necessary. If you weren't, God wouldn't create you. Nothing's forcing God to create you. If you look at it, it's just nature, so everything is unnecessary. Nothing is important. Life is not important. Tomorrow is not important. Today is not important. Just, life is but a dream, like they say. But if we look at it, that God is creating everything, so everything is important, and every human being is important, and is important every moment, because they're being created. When a person really feels this, then he feels that it's not a separate thing from, it's not religion. I am a religious person. I am a creation of God. Al derech kafir, and like it is, what it is, benogea, the service of man, so it will also be in regard in how he is in the world, day-to-day activities in the world. In the world, by means of this, that a Jew does the commandments with a physical thing in the world, namely the commandments. Most of the commandments are physical things. Nasa birur, there's made a refinement in the physical world. And just to remind everybody, to repeat again, which I've repeated 1,000 times, only Judaism has commandments. There is no other religion, belief, whatever it is, the nation, the theory, race, whatever it is, they have commandments. They have commandments. Commandments are direct and exact directions, what we have to do or say or even think or feel from the creator of the universe. Exact. It's not, this is not the rituals, and it's not customs, and it's not the heritage. It's all these things also, you could say, from the external for sure. But these are commandments directly from God. And they're right now. It's not just 3,000 years ago when we got the Torah. This is God's will and God's wisdom. Right now, we are embodying it. We become limbs of God, expressing God's will. When a Jew does a commandment, this becomes a refinement of the world, the physical world, because the commandments are dealing with physical things. Odd until many things, it becomes the world, physical world, like money that's given charity, or circumcision, for instance. The circumcision, the person's body, the Jew's body, becomes holy. Hagam, even though the Kedusha, that the holiness of a physical thing is made by means of the person, that he sanctifies the thing, and this is by a person that's doing the commandment. This is like something additional to him. But afterwards, the holiness becomes in that physical thing in a way that after doing the commandment, it remains. It remains in the world. Like it says, for instance, refining everything physical, which is done by doing the commandments. Right? For instance, if there was no such thing as cows, then we wouldn't be able to put on tefillin. So every time a Jew puts on tefillin, he's elevating, so to speak, all the cows in the world. And those tefillin that he puts on his head, they themselves become holy. The world becomes holy. That was the difference between the commandments after the Torah was given, when holiness remained in the world. There was a holy temple, right? Like we said, Jerusalem becomes holy. And before God gave the Torah, things weren't holy. And even more than that, that there is in the power of shel chayfetz, of the item that a person does with it a commandment. For instance, he can even make an oath. It says that when you make an oath, this is carried on like even in America. I don't know if they do it anymore, but you put your hand on a Bible. You swear by the Bible. They still do it. I don't know. I think that the Jews can say that they swear on the Old Testament, and I think that the Arabs, the Muslims, they can swear on the Quran. But anyway, you swear on something holy. Well, according to Judaism, that idea comes from Judaism. An oath comes from swearing on a holy thing. Take an oath to God on a holy thing. You can make an oath to God on tefillin, on a mezuzah, on anything that a commandment was done with. Because only by means of a physical thing, a holy physical thing, an oath really takes effect. But it was just by means of the oath of the person himself, even though that holiness of the thing, it becomes holy by means of a person. The person put on the tefillin that made them holy, but nevertheless the holiness remains. And this becomes attached to the oath that he makes. Also, an oath, when a person makes an oath, right? I swear I will pay this person off or whatever. An oath is from the language of sove, of being satisfied. It gives satisfaction. It gives, how do you say, empowers the abilities of a person when he makes an oath. Like it's known, mashbim moto. That's how the Tanya starts off with this quote from the Gemara in Nida that says that before a baby comes into the world, that they give an oath to the soul, mashbim oto. That the word oath can also be read masbim oto, that he is satisfied. Like when you eat a meal, you're satisfied. You have power to go and do things. The same thing as a shavua, an oath, which is taken on a physical holy thing. This shows that the power of holiness, which is in the physical thing, this makes that the person himself becomes, what do we say, like a flame that goes up on its own. He becomes sort of empowered, satisfied. This makes the oath of a person. Maybe I'll just explain this in a very short way. Let's say a person is addicted to eating pickles, right? He has to eat pickles. If he sees pickles, he just can't control himself. He has to not go to weddings, and he has to have, his wife with him all the time, not to come near the pickles. And he just can't control himself, right? Just can't control himself. So what does he do? He makes an oath. Now, nowadays, we don't make oaths. You're not supposed to make an oath. Right? You're not supposed to make an oath. You should say, God help me or whatever, but you're not supposed to. An oath is, I swear to God that I will not eat any more pickles. That's it. And ideally, you're supposed to do it on a Torah or something holy. Okay, but he makes an oath. And he says, I'm not going to eat pickles anymore. That's it. Right? He has a moment of truth, clarity. And he said, I'm not going to eat pickles anymore. That's it. I swear to God. Okay. Then time passes, and he hasn't had any temptations. Then his friend invites him to a party, and he goes to a party, and what does he see on the table? Pickles. And suddenly all of his old desires and lusts and thoughts and urges he starts to sweat, and all of his just, how do you say, his whole being just raises up, and he just wants to take that pickle. And by him, in his mind, it's already done. That pickle is in his mouth, and he is chomping on it, and he's eating it, and he wants to, and that's it. Why not? Why not? It feels good. Suddenly he remembers the oath. I swear to God. That one moment of clarity, all of a sudden, poof, pops into his mind. And that gives him the power. That gives him that power that he had back then, that moment of clarity, and he swore to God. Suddenly that power from the oath that he made to God gives him that same clarity right now and removes him from the situation, just like he was back then. No, it empowers him. That's what it means, masbia. It gives him power. Also, the same thing is when the soul comes into the body, he's administered an oath. The soul is administered an oath that when you think about this, you're empowered that you can resist the bad things in the world, and you can force yourself to do the good things in the world until it becomes natural. And this becomes, that says that the oath has to be done on a physical thing. So the physical thing empowers you. It actually reveals who you really are. It's a flame that goes up on its own. We can say the novelty about this is that even though the physical world on its own is not connected to holiness, and in order to draw down holiness into the world, ad ofen until away. Sheyah said that the world itself should become a holy thing, that tefillin or whatever become holy, and you can make an oath on them. We have to have the power of God, that God will join these two things, namely the physical world and the holiness, which is, so to speak, floating over the whole business. And when you used it for a holy purpose, that was given at the giving of the Torah. When God gave the Torah, what happened was the spiritual godliness came into the physical world, and the physical world had the ability to be elevated and used for what God wants. Hari HaKodesh Baruch Hu, God gave the power to a Jew that by means of him doing a commandment with a physical thing, Yah said the physical thing itself will become holy. It'll become holy on its own. It doesn't need anymore a person to make it holy. And similar to this, we can find the neros capisciuto, the flames in the temple. The flames, a person had to light them, but after a person lit the flames in the temple, Adam lit Aaron, lit the flames in the temple, is that afterwards, and he did it with a physical lamp, and there was a physical wick, and there was a physical oil, and on its own it could not light itself. But after somebody lit it, then it remains lit on its own. And that's the same thing with us. First of all, we can force ourselves to do what God wants, but after that, it catches on. The patila, the wick, physical wick, and the oil become a source for the light of the candle itself, and it will not go out. As we'll continue, God willing, tomorrow. All right, let's do the Yom Yom for today.